If you think trouser suits are automatically chic, think again. A suit can make you look powerful and precise, or unintentionally messy and underdressed. And the difference is not the brand or the price tag. It's the execution. In today's video, we are breaking down one of the biggest myths around royal fashion and royal dress codes, that trouser suits are somehow banned or inappropriate for royal women or royal adjacent ladies. They're not. Catherine, Princess of Wales, wears them frequently as she goes on royal duties, and Meghan Markle wears them frequently as she aimlessly wanders around. But she also did wear them when she was a working royal too. The garment itself is completely acceptable. So why does one of these ladies look consistently cohesive and commanding and get praise for this look, and the other often receives criticism for a similar fashion choice? The answer comes down to these key factors: structure versus styling contrast, occasion appropriateness, and tailoring and finish. And here's why this matters beyond just observation and royal watching. The lessons apply to all of us. Trouser suits are inherently structured garments. And when you work with that structure, it inherently elevates you. In fact, blazers and trouser suits and things of that nature can be one of the most powerful styling options you can make. That style of clothing sends some real powerful nonverbal messaging, so it's an excellent thing to use. But when you fight against it, when you fight against that structure, especially in professional settings, things start to look unintentionally chaotic, and that contradiction just doesn't land well. In fact, it's very distracting and looks disjointed, and it can sometimes be difficult to put your finger on exactly why it doesn't look right. So today we're breaking down the why. We're breaking down exactly why Meghan Markle's relaxed styling approach to trouser suits oftentimes doesn't work out, and Catherine's approach to styling trouser suits does tend to work. A quick note before we dive in: I filmed this video a few days ago, and I lost the beginning and the end of it. Just poof, we're gone. I don't know where they went. Maybe I'll find them someday, but please excuse the lack of continuity. These two ladies also both have frequently worn trouser suits, and a royal dress code myth is that trouser suits were frowned upon or even banned. And back in the day, I suppose they were. I mean, when Queen Elizabeth II was younger, it was very uncommon for women to wear trouser suits, but she was said to have strongly preferred skirts and dresses over trousers, at least for herself. And her personal preference is obviously evidence of this, but there was no ban on trouser suits established ever. In fact, there was actually a long-standing precedence of Princess Anne, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, and even Princess Diana embracing trouser suits for certain royal engagements. Princess Catherine has also effectively adapted to modern professional wear with trouser suits. These were obviously less common in Queen Elizabeth's day, but now are just as common in workplaces as dresses or skirts. So it was an important but also a very normal evolution to see Catherine embracing this style. In the last few years especially, she has broadened her wardrobe beyond classic dresses and coat dresses to include lots of smart trousers and tailored separates, pieces historically less common in formal royal wardrobes. This shift definitely signaled a more professional, empowered style aligned with modern women in public life, which obviously many ladies will identify with. And in venues like these or occasions like these, a coat dress would look too formal and a day dress could look out of place, so the trouser suit is just right. Maximizing on these pieces' potential allows Catherine to really cater her style to the occasion at hand. Something that suits the tone and the vibe, but isn't too far from what you'd normally see in any given space. Take these types of outdoor events where she just wears jeans or boots or athletic wear. It seems obvious to stick with very practical outfit choices that would be a normal choice for each occasion. But for a future queen, it's a purposeful choice that shapes her image in a very important way. It communicates so much. It's unpretentious, it's relatable, it's approachable, it's realistic. And an example of the opposite effect is Meghan Markle wearing overly styled items that look try-hard or pretentious. They don't fit the setting seamlessly. It's not something you would normally see in this setting. And the execution of the outfit on top of it is probably the worst of it all. It detracts from the look. For example, wrinkled pieces and unironed shirts look too casual here, and they look over the top here. She just can't quite get it right. And that's part of why it comes across like Meghan is really, really try hard with her fashion choices, because if you just stick to things that are practical or that you would normally see at the event or venue, and then just add a little bit of professionalism, then you got it right. And we've seen Meghan Markle struggle with this so much. She clearly has an affinity for menswear-inspired styles, but her execution lacks polish, with overwhelming silhouettes, shoving up the sleeves, creating a lot of visual noise that just looks messy. A menswear look can work, and it can look polished, but she fails in her approach. She also undermines her efforts by not addressing her style concerns, neglecting to bring balance to her figure through her clothing. For example, straight-leg trousers balance her torso without looking like she's swimming in GMPs. Exposed shoulders tend to widen her shoulder line and box out her torso visually, rather than something like this, which draws the eye toward her face and elongates her neck. The jewelry also often feels excessive and pretentious when combined with those luxury-priced clothings, which she doesn't even wear well, and then don't always suit the setting. Combined, all these factors really remove all potential relatability. When both women started wearing trouser suits more often, more frequently, the comparison was inevitable. But the public reaction to these two different approaches was very, very different. With Catherine, the public reacted to the trouser suits as like, oh, these are modern. She looks confident, they are powerful, and they also are practical. It was largely praised. With Meghan, however, they were usually criticized as ill-fitting, messy, and oftentimes inappropriate. So why? Ultimately, I think the biggest factor is that it comes down to the finish. Catherine's suits tend to follow a very deliberate template. The fabric weight is usually heavier, a little bit more structured, that holds its shape. The fabric doesn't collapse or wrinkle excessively, and she buys them in a proper fit where the seams aren't going to be pulling. This creates clean lines on camera, which is especially important during outdoor engagements. She also pays attention to precision tailoring, and the context awareness cannot be underestimated. The result feels like modern power dressing within a royal framework. Now, when we contrast that with Meghan Markle's approach, her trouser suits are frequently criticized because they leaned into a more relaxed vibe. Oversized blazers, fluid fabrics, wide leg trousers, things that are not hemmed properly, so they look baggy or get really wrinkly. On the red carpet, sometimes these could have looked more chic and directional if Meghan had pulled them off better. But during structured royal engagements where certain practical elements need to be taken into consideration, or other outings that Meghan has done since leaving the royal family, the looser tailoring, the lighter fabrics, usually photographed in a bad way, like really wrinkled, kind of unfinished, especially under natural light and a lot of movement. There were also moments where like the sleeve length or the trouser break or the jacket just appeared slightly off. Tailoring is really unforgiving on camera. Even minor proportion issues become magnified in high-resolution press photos. So the perception issue wasn't only about wearing trousers. It was about whether the suit looked like a professional armor or personal style dropped into a former role where it doesn't really belong. Catherine's tailoring reinforced authority and polish, and it boosted her confidence, obviously. Meghan's clearly emphasized individuality and fashion expression, but it was executed so poorly and looked so silly on her that you couldn't take her seriously. And once you start noticing things like the fabric weight, the tailoring precision, and the contextual awareness, you really can't unsee it. And a lot of us pick up on those cues without even realizing it, and that's part of why Meghan is so heavily criticized, and her fashion sense is one of the worst we've seen on a public figure. So the practical takeaway here is that a contrast between a structured trouser suit with a more relaxed styling, the way Meghan Markle wants to do it, doesn't always work. The dichotomy of a trouser suit and making it look relaxed or effortless really only succeeds in more casual settings. So like luncheons with friends, days out shopping. A trouser suit worn to speak at a conference or attend an engagement should be styled with a professional tone. Structure and styling need to agree with one another. You can play with pulling more casual pieces into a more formal look, or the other way around, bringing more formal pieces into a more casual look, but it still has to agree on the setting, the context, and the structure and style still need to have enough harmony with one another. Because a trouser suit is inherently a structured garment. It's designed to signal authority, professionalism, and intention. The tailoring, the clean lines, the sharp shoulders, all of that communicates more seriousness. And when you try to style that same suit to look overly relaxed with shoved up sleeves, oversized proportions, fluid fabrics, undone layering, lots and lots of wrinkles, you create a visual contradiction that just doesn't work. And usually that contradiction reads not as effortless, but as unfinished, ill-prepared, amateur. The relaxed power suit works beautifully in casual environments, creative settings, like I said, lunch or shopping days, even certain social events, like, going to events at people's houses, stuff like that. It makes sense. It works. It's fine. It's cool. Jeans and a blazer is a classic look, but it's a dressy casual situation, not something you would wear to something like this. When you're speaking at a conference or attending a formal engagement, maybe you're presenting or interviewing or representing something bigger than yourself, the styling should reinforce the authority of the garment, not fight against it. So that means choosing heavier fabrics that hold their shape, proper tailoring, especially at the hems and the waist, sleeves that fit correctly, minimal wrinkling, polished hair and accessories that align with the tone. Effortless doesn't mean careless. It doesn't mean messy. The real secret to a powerful trouser suit isn't making it look undone. It's making it look intentional. And that's the difference between wearing a suit and letting the suit work for you. So although Meghan wants to carve out a unique fashion sense for herself, her lack of knowledge undermines her efforts and creates disjointed styles. Things that look out of place or amateur. And if she prioritized dressing for the occasion a little bit more, she may find more success. So let's zoom out a little bit from this. When you really analyze the differences here, the issue was never about whether trouser suits are appropriate for royal ladies or for high-powered situations. They absolutely are. The difference is the harmony between the garment itself, the occasion, and how it's styled. These three things all come into play when you're putting together an outfit. A structured garment really does need styling that supports its structure and uses it, maximize it. Why not play into it? Especially at formal or professional events. When Meghan Markle pushes up the sleeves, leaves her jackets open, chooses oversized trousers, things with lots of wrinkles and bunching, and puddling up at the hemline, GMPs to put it simply, and she pairs that with formal speaking engagements or giving a speech or doing some sort of a professional engagement where the setting would call for something a little bit more polished and professional looking, the message becomes visually conflicted and it just doesn't mesh well. The garment says authority, but the styling says casual day out. And that tension ends up reading as messy rather than modern. And it's not like a styling vibe in those instances because that dichotomy, that lack of continuity and that contrast of fighting against one another, that really casual styling that's very messy and would be suited to like a day off, paired up with a professional setting or a situation that would require more professional dress, that conflict negates and overpowers any attempt at like having your own sense of style or fashion sense shine through. It's too overpowering because those two things just don't get along. Catherine, on the other hand, leans into the architecture of the suit, the clean tailoring, the intentional proportions, occasion-matched styling. The structure of the garment aligns with the structure of the event, and that visual harmony automatically reads as polished and professional. And so that's the key takeaway for all of us. If you're wearing a suit to convey authority or to boost your professional vibe for an occasion that's important, whether that's a presentation or an interview or a public-facing role or perhaps, photographs, whatever it is. You work with that structure, not against it. Don't try to take the garment completely out of its vibe. Tailoring matters, Hemlines matter, wrinkles matter, and proportions matter. A suit can elevate you instantly. Like I said, that nonverbal communication that a suit sends is invaluable. It's a very useful thing, but only when the execution matches the moment. A lot of times with fashion, the conversation leans into styling choices that are mixing high and low, or you're encouraged to play. There's a lot of fashion conversations and styling advice about that, of mixing pieces and things like that. But at the end of the day, the look still needs to have that harmony where the piece itself, how it's styled, and where it's worn get along enough still. And that's a skill that takes time to develop, but it's also really, really important. And I feel it's not talked about enough within styling advice. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's special Royal Dressing Fashion Edition. Be sure to subscribe so you do not miss any upcoming videos. If you enjoy breaking down the details that make or break an outfit, especially through the lens of royal style, if you like red carpet fashion editions, then be sure you subscribe here and to my second channel that does a lot more fashion editions. Thank you so much. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I'll see you next time. Bye!